Now, for almost a year, I've been getting questions from you guys like this one. This one is from Colleen West 2000. The boat is looking better and better. Thank you. I really like the AC mini split. Question: how well will your LG mini split compressor and fan unit handle the saltwater environment and water splashes? I know they're built with outdoor weather and rain in mind. Any idea how long it will last on your foredeck? I think this may be a great alternative to marine air conditioning units that suck from what I can see, cost more, use more power, provide less cooling, and are always needing more service. Well, this is a great question because I've had 2 of these units on board now over the past year and currently testing this one for almost 8 months. So today, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. So first, I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory on why did we install an LG mini split air conditioning system on a sailboat. Well, I'll tell you, because if you remember back a couple of years ago when I first started testing some house-style air conditioning units on the boat, namely the small window-style air conditioners that we were putting up here in the hatch. Now, those units did quite a good job, but for a very short amount of time. The first thing I noticed is that their longevity was very, very bad. I had 2 different units up there. The second one, it made it about 6 months before it just started to not cool so much anymore, and inside was getting much hotter. Now I went outside and I had a look, and I was trying to figure out where all this dust was coming from out on the deck. It was blowing all over the place, and at that time I realized it was the air conditioner. It had aluminum fins on the condenser coil, and in the salt air they just turned to dust. They literally vaporized. Within 6 months it was dead. They were all over the deck and there was nothing left, so it just wasn't cooling efficiently anymore. So of course that meant it was running using more and more power and doing less and less cooling, and we started noticing it in the boat. Now unfortunately that happened at a time when we really needed some cooling in the boat, because if you remember, that was back at the same time that we put the boat into the harbor to do the engine replacement. Now we were going to be at the dock for over a month while we did that upgrade, and within a week we were almost dying because of course at the dock the boat was sideways to the wind, so we weren't getting any breeze, and without some kind of air conditioning it turned into an oven in here very quickly. We had Maddy had just given birth to Ricci, so he was only 5-6 months old at the time, and you can imagine tempers were not good when we had a lot of heat in here and the guys in here ripping that apart. All our stairs were out, you know, the engine underway. It was a mess. So we needed a solution, and we needed it fast. Now, I tried to find something similar, but better than what we had there. They don't sell any kind of window air conditioners on the island. Everything is either full-blown installed units or mini splits. So I started doing some research because we needed something that we could buy here. We didn't have time to wait for it to come in from Miami or anything like that. And the research I did showed me that the most efficient units that were available in today's market, according to all the popular reviews, was the LG. So I started researching who carried LG on the island and found out what they had in stock, and that's what we decided to buy. And it turned out to be a very good decision. Now, when it comes to installation, you wonder, well, how do you install something like this on a sailboat? Actually, it was quite easy. The only decision we had to make was where to put the condensing unit outside on the deck. And of course, I had a spot that was a natural solution right there on deck beside the mast, right where we used to carry the motorcycle. We don't have the motorcycle anymore, and we got the granny bars there as support and everything, and you know, we don't use that side of the mast because all of the halyards are on the opposite side of the mast, so we decided to put the mini split right there. That meant just having to drill 4 small holes into the deck to put the screws in, but that was it. So that was a pretty good compromise for what we needed at the time, and it solved our problem. Now, obviously, when it comes to putting a mini split in a sailboat, there is two components. This is pretty much the brains and the beauty of the system. And obviously this is the brawn of the system. This is the power. So this is where the cooling is done and the compressing. So the AC compressor is housed in this unit here, and the condensing coil that takes the heat out of the compressed gas, so that then the cooled gas goes downstairs to the evaporator unit where the cold air is produced that cools the boat. And of course this monitors the inside temperature and decides when to turn on or off, or what speed to run at, and how much cooling is necessary, and everything is from right here. Now, some of you might remember that we had a white one here first. And yes, that is true, because this is the second one that we've installed, because the white one was our first experiment. Now, the white one was the cheapest base model that we could find on the island that would do the job. So we installed that as an experiment just to see if it would work, and of course it did. But of course, you know me, I'm looking for the most efficient product I can get. So after a few months, we traded into this one, which is a much higher efficiency unit. This is a dual inverter 220 volt system, and the compressor in this one's rated at 20 to 30% more efficient than the previous version that we had before. Now, of course, 220 volts, we don't have 220 volts on the boat. Our inverter runs 110. It's a 5,000 watt inverter by Victron. So the solution to that was a simple voltage converter. I bought a voltage converter that takes 110 AC up to 220 AC. It's a 3,000 watt converter, and this is rated at maximum 1,200 watts. So this device is no problem at all for that converter to run. Now, of course, then you'll say there's going to be losses of efficiency using the converter. Well, yes, there is. And I've calculated all of those, and at the end of the day, I still am claiming 15 to 20% energy savings with this unit, even using the converter over and above what we were using with the other system. But even that, when we consider how much efficiency we gained over the window style air conditioners, this one was using 9 to 10 kilowatt hours per day on average daily conditions where we are all the time. This one does the exact same job on some days 4 kilowatt hours, some days 5, but the maximum has been 6. That's a substantial improvement, and I'm talking substantial, because all that power has to come from somewhere, and our solar cells out back, we can produce a maximum of about 11 to 12 kilowatt hours per day. So of course we're never going to run this just purely off solar power along with everything else, because we consume an average of about 8 to 9 kilowatt hours per day without air conditioning. But that's because, you know, we've got 5 kilowatt home style freezer in here, we got 3 kilowatt upright refrigerator right here. We've got a home style washing machine dryer right here that we use on a regular basis. I've got 24-hour security systems running with 8 4K cameras. All my laptops, the refrigeration systems, we've got fridge under the counter. I mean, we've got energy we're using everywhere, but that's been our experiment overall as well. You know, I'm trying to figure out ways to run this sailboat just like you would a house, because I lived in this sailboat for a lot of years, roughing it like we were camping. And I remember trying to conserve every single ounce of power, of water, everything. And after so many years, it's just nice to be able to find all this new technology that's available that I can implement into our lifestyle that makes it so much more comfortable, just like being at home. You're at your home in a house, okay? This is our house, but it is now almost as comfortable as being in your house. We have all the amenities of home, just in a smaller refined enclosure that we can take anywhere. And this is what my goal has been. I am trying to build the ultimate tiny house that's completely self-sufficient, capable of living off-grid anywhere, and we can just pull up our anchor and move it anytime we want. If we don't like our neighbors or our neighborhood or where we're at or anything like that, or we just get bored and want to go somewhere else, we pull it all up and move. But we take all of our conveniences with us. That is a nice touch. Now, as for the inside installation, it really was quite simple. I just fabricated a bracket that I could put on the back of the unit and screw directly to the wall at the back on this side of the boat. And you can see right here, that's where the bracket attaches. And there's just a screw on this side and a screw on the other side that matches. And this allows it to pivot. It's on a hinge so that it can still pivot, so I can still let it move if I want to when the boat is sailing, or keep it in a fixed position. Now from there, there's just the 2 tubes, and they're held here, as you can see in the insulation. And they just come out the side of the unit and go up here and around to the ceiling. And up in the ceiling, you remember I used to have a fireplace right here. and the fireplace has been gone for a long time, but it left a hole where the chimney was. So I used that hole right there, and we'll go up on deck and I'll show you where the lines come through. For the outside installation, you can see where the coils just come out of the unit. They're all insulated. I've got an extra loop of them here. Goes around the mast, comes around here, and goes down through this plate, and this is where the chimney used to be for the inside furnace. So we just ran all the tubing through the old plate, put some silicone around it to seal it up, and so far, working perfect. Now the other thing is the drip tube. Now I have the drip tube just coming down here, in behind where the water maker is, and it runs down, 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 all the way into the bilge, and then the bilge pumps it out. Now of course this isn't the best solution, but it's an experiment, so what can I say? This tube, I already have a better tube that's going to run along with this and then drop down the support for the rigging on the mast and go straight into the floor. And it's a much smaller clear tube, so it won't be nearly as noticeable as this one is, of course, just hanging there right now. In one of our bathrooms in the back, we've got an automatic sump system for the shower. So when people shower, we used to just have to pull a switch and it would pump out the water from the bottom of the floor. Now I have an automatic sump installed on that shower that we've been testing for a couple of years. Works great. So we bought another one that we're going to install under the floor underneath the washing machine, and it will collect water from that shower and this shower. So both port and starboard showers from both bathrooms will come down into this sump, and then it will automatically pump the water overboard so we don't have to. At the same time, it has extra inlets on the sump, so we're just going to run the drip tube from the air conditioning straight down into there, and that will keep it out of the bilge of the boat and just into the shower sump instead, and then the shower sump will take care of it. So that will be a much better solution. It's on the project list. And yes, not only is this where the brunt of the work is done, but it's also where the brunt of the punishment is taken. Because don't forget, this is a sailboat and we go sailing, and I have seen this bow literally go through big waves where we've had a foot of blue water come over and wash down the deck and go straight through the condenser. And I'm serious, I'm talking like big, thick water. And I saw that several times when we were at sea, and I thought, there's no way it could survive that. There's no way. Experiment's finished. But I kid you not, when we got back to shore, all we did was throw a bucket of fresh water through it to get rid of any salt, turned it on, and it was working like nothing happened. I couldn't believe it. Now, I mean, since, yes, we do have a cover for it, so if we're going to sea and we're not planning to use it, we just put the cover over it and tie it over so that we can preserve it a little bit longer. But I have to say I'm quite impressed at how resilient it's been so far, because we have really torture tested this condenser. Now, as you can see, it has held up very well. I mean, the case is in amazing shape, and this is over 6 months worth of constant daily subject to salt air, salt water. The screws, they got a little bit of corrosion, nothing too bad. The housing is perfect, but the biggest thing is the condensing coil itself. But that was one of the things that I found when I did my research on this model. The condenser cooling fins are actually, they have some kind of a gold anodizing on them that protects them against corrosion. And I didn't think it would protect them against direct saltwater intrusion, but it has. These coils, the fins are in perfect condition, and I am very impressed, I gotta say. Now, the only place I've seen any corrosion on this thing at all is in the base pan, and I'll show you here now. Let's see, if you go right down to the bottom of the unit, you can see right there, there's just a bit of corrosion in the bottom, and that's where the salt water sometimes accumulates. So of course, if we don't get it out of there, it will cause corrosion. Now, obviously that hasn't hindered operation yet, but eventually it will lead to deterioration of the mounts. So to correct that, I'm just going to put something in there to get rid of the rust, and then we'll probably spray in some oil just to cover the surface to protect it and make it last as long as possible. Now, I'm sure some of you are asking, well, what are you going to do when this thing fails? Well, I thought of that also, because ultimately at some point it's got to fail, right? I mean, it can't last forever sitting out here, that's for sure. But I thought about that even before I did my research on the unit, and what was I going to do if the air condenser failed? Well, I'll tell you. That is where this guy comes into play, and what this is a water-cooled heat exchanger for a refrigeration unit, okay? Now this will handle up to a 5-ton unit, and what we have up there is a 1-ton unit, so this is more than adequate for the amount of cooling that we need for that compressor. If you've never heard of or seen anything like this, all it is basically is a tube or a coil within a tube. So we have an inside tube and an outside tube. And what happens is these two small nibs on top, this is for the high pressure lines that come off the compressor. These are for water lines. So you've got a water in and a water out, high pressure in, high pressure out. But of course, this is going to be hot going in and cool coming out. Because what's going to happen is these small tubes are wrapped around the inside tube all the way across and encapsulated in copper. And copper, of course, is a very, very good conductor, or thermal conductor, to dissipate heat very, very quickly. So as we pass cold water through the inside of this tube, it literally takes all the heat out of the coil on the inside of the tube, and then all the heat comes out with the water on the other side and just goes straight back out to the ocean. So this will effectively water cool the entire system and replace that great big air-cooled condenser up on deck. So if the condenser gives up the ghost, that doesn't mean the compressor's dead. The compressor's still going to be good. We're just going to remove the compressor and bring it inside. I'll probably put it in the water locker along with the reverse osmosis, the desalination system or something like that. I'll plumb the lines from the AC unit down to the compressor through this. I'll run the cold water through this using a pump similar to what we use with the RO system or anything like that. And I have found you can get good water pumps for refrigeration systems on Amazon for about $150, $200. You can get some that are 12 volt DC or some that are 110 volt AC. So if the air conditioning's running, that means that we're using the inverter anyway, so it doesn't matter to use the extra water pump. And the 110 volt pumps are usually more efficient than the 12 volt counterparts and less expensive. But that is the plan. So if the system upstairs breaks, this is what I'm going to implement in its place to start another test and see what happens. Now, maybe it will break, maybe it won't. I don't know. Only time is going to tell us that. But until then, we continue to use it as it is. Of course, next question is, how well does it work? Well, I can tell you it works very well. This is a 12,000 BTU unit, and we're on a 50-foot boat that probably has less than 400 square feet of space inside. And of course, we're not 8-foot ceilings like you'd have in a house. We are 7-foot ceilings through most of the boat. So the cubic area that has to cool is a very reasonable size for this size of unit. Now, we only have one unit, and we use it to cool the entire boat, all the cabins just with fans. Now, if we're not using a cabin just like this one, we leave the door closed because nobody's in there, so there's no point in air conditioning it. Our cabin, same thing, we leave the door open, we have a fan on in there, and it just keeps circulating or sucking air from the cabin, from the salon, into our cabin, and just keeps it cool. Not freezing cold or anything, but we don't need freezing cold, we just need not hot. Now, you'll see I've got the unit set at 27 degrees. So to give you an idea, if we look over here, I've got all my temperature gauges right here. And this is the outside temperature right now in the cockpit, 30.6 degrees. This is our inside cabin temperature, 26.1 degrees, 66% humidity, 80% humidity outside. Now that is more than enough to make a considerable difference in comfort inside the boat, because we've dropped the humidity down to a very, very reasonable level, and the temperature differential, I usually try to chase 3 to 4 degrees from outside temperature. That's all we need. Like I said, we don't need to be freezing cold, we just want to keep it more comfortable than outside. And that's how we keep our power consumption under control also. I've kept all the backup information on this unit because that was one of the advantages of getting this one, is it has a full app control as well, and the app stores all of the data from all the usage from the day that we installed it. That's awesome. So not only does our Victron system store all the information about the energy that we use and gather on a daily basis, this stores all of its own information on how much it uses on a daily basis at the same time. Now, as far as power consumption, we could never just keep this unit running 24 hours a day, running on our solar panels alone. Obviously, we don't generate that much, but we can replenish the power as needed with our engine, because now that's why we have these dual alternators here, and that is a backup power system in case we're not getting enough sun, or if it's too hot and we want to run the air conditioning just so we can function and still work down here, we can just run the engine for maximum 1 hour a day of engine time. We'll run this 24 hours a day in addition to everything else we do on the boat. So that is a big, significant improvement from what I am accustomed to with boats that I've seen previously with air conditioning, where they have to run a generator 24 hours a day. And yes, 24 hours a day, because these things suck a lot of power. But the new generation of these systems are far more efficient, especially considering anything that's available on the marine market right now. I studied all the marine air conditioning units, and I could not find anything that touched the statistics or the specifications of this unit. And that's why I wanted to test it, see if it actually measured up to what they promised. And it does. But the marine units are far more expensive than something like this. I mean, this model, this is the LG dual inverter Art Cool, okay? That's why it's got the fancy glass plate on the front and everything. We really like that because it kind of blends in more and gives a reflection or an open area of expanding the salon. But the biggest differences for me was the improved efficiency and the app control with the data logging. Those were my main reasons for upgrading to this one. This one was about $800 or about $200 more than the base model, but that $200 will pay for itself probably within 1 to 1.5 years, just with the difference in efficiency, because this one doesn't use nearly as much power as the last one, which translates to less engine hours at the end of the day if we have to replenish the power from the engine. So I've done all those calculations, and so far it's fitting the bill perfectly. But of course, if there's one person whose opinion you want about the air conditioning in the house, that would be the lady of the house.
Yeah, I switch on now.
Yeah, so what do you think of having this device in the house? What kind of difference has it made in your opinion so far?
Oh, less stress, less Ricci nervous for the hot, especially because he's little and he stay in the boat on the floor. It's the humidity that make the difference in so, and the air conditioner help a lot to kill.
Right, because we have run it 24 hours a day, and sometimes we do, but not often, because actually at night we prefer the breeze through the boat.
Oh,
so
yeah, sure.
Usually just when it's hot during the day is when we turn it on.
No, I like the air, the normal air from the window, and help a lot. The air conditioner help a lot the same inside the boat for dress, for clothes, for fruits and veggie, everything, because this is then deteriorate the stuff and make a mold in all the boat, because really it's a long time now that we don't have a lot of mold.
When you decrease the humidity, you decrease the amount of mold that grows inside the boat, is what she's saying.
And inside your closet.
Because yeah, usually we have to clean the headliner a lot just from mold that grows on the roof and the ceiling. The wood everywhere, but we haven't had to do that in quite a while since we've been running air conditioning.
Yeah, and the fruits
mostly during the daytimes.
The fruits, the food during more time, the fruits that is outside. Now I don't have a fruits for I need to go to buy a new one.
Yeah, it's a little empty right now.
During a week without any issue almost.
Okay, but what's your thought about this air conditioner? As far as intrusive in the boat, do you find it loud, quiet?
This is very quiet. It's very strange inside the boat, to see inside the boat, because it's a house air condition. And we never thinking before then it's possible have one of these here. But it's silence, it refresh the boat very, very, very fast. And really we don't have an issue when we're selling, because this is very tight, and outside we just test for a season in Panama some months when we're selling. The splash of the water really after you refresh with the sweet water don't have any damage, don't have any rusty for the moment. Now we have these from the 6 months now.
Yeah, this model about at least 6 months.
Yeah, in 6 months we don't have any rusty and working perfectly every day.
Right now the only thing you can hear running right now is that
the fan. Then it's silence also, is a very good brand this.
One of the things I like about this particular model, why we upgraded from the previous one, is this one has the built-in air deflectors, not just up and down on the vertical axis, but also on the horizontal axis. So it circulates air through the entire room all on its own.
If you have electronics on board, is amazing. Have a little bit of air condition, because the same day electronic, when the boat is very hot, stop to working, and then they deteriorate so fast.
This has always been my issue, because I work over here, and of course over here is where the refrigeration systems are, the computers are. All of the heat in the boat is generated from right underneath my station, and it gets smoking hot. So some days I can't even edit. I have to shut everything off and just go outside, because there's just too much heat and I can't deal with it. The computers even start to complain, and they'll just start to stop working. So I have to turn on fans and let it cool down. But now, as soon as it starts to happen, we turn on the air conditioning and I can actually keep working, no problem at all. So it does make a big difference in our environment for sure. But I know you have to go. Where'd Richie go? He's too quiet. That's a problem. That's a problem. Where's Richie? Oh, there he is. Oh, good boy. You're behaving. Richie, ready to go swimming?
Good boy. We need to go. Then Ricci have a swimming lesson.
Yeah, time for Richie's swimming lesson.
Yeah, almost, guy. Almost is swimming alone.
Okay.
Almost.
Have a good lesson. Okay, so there you have the opinion of the lady of the house. And I'm not suggesting that this is going to work for everybody, but in fact, it does work for us at the moment. I'm not also saying that it's going to last forever or for much longer. That I don't know. So absolutely, I'd be interested to know what you guys think. So for sure, leave your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day out there, and I'll see you in the next episode. Ciao, guys.